Hello everybody and welcome to my September book haul. Yeah, it's been a really long time since I did a book haul and I accumulated far too many books. Oh, and some of this is going to be really embarrassing. Let's just dive on in. I'm just going to start with kind of what I got most recently and then it's just going to turn into a hodgepodge. So a couple days ago, I actually visited for the first time in a long time my local secondhand bookstore. I don't go there too often because it is really small and they do not have much of good selection for what I want, but I did find some things there that I picked up. First up, I have The Way of Shadows by Brent Weeks. This is obviously a mass market. It has a small crease in the spine, but outside of that, it's in really beautiful condition with barely any shelf wear, and it is a fantasy series involving assassins. And given how much I love Throne of Glass, we all know I like fantasy assassins. Next, while I was there, I picked up the Complete ODES by Pindar. For anybody who has noticed, a lot of my very social media is a quote from Pindar. It is actually from Pythia. My soul, do not seek eternal life, but exhaust the realm of the possible. And yes, this is not Pythia, but it is the Complete Ode, something which I have not ever owned. So I have it to add to my classics collection, which is a fairly good size, I like to think. And the last two books I got at my local secondhand bookstore I was really excited about, and they were both in hardcover and they were ridiculously inexpensive. The first one is Diary by Chuck Palahniuk, who is obviously probably most famous for his novel Fight Club, which I really like. I've read some of Chuck Palahniuk's other works. I read Damned, which I really liked and thought was hilarious. I have not yet read Doomed, so nobody say anything about it. I haven't read it yet. But I had tried to read some of his other works and had a hard time getting into them, but I've heard really good things about Diary, and I really wanted the hardcover because the inside of the dust jacket is like really sketchy, and I just sort of love stuff like this. And the last novel that I got at my local secondhand bookstore was this beautiful hardcover copy of Inkheart by Cornelia Funk. I own the Ink World trilogy in its entirety already, but I never owned the hardcover of the first book. I only had it in paperback. A very, very battered paperback. And this was beautiful, with the exception of a little bit of creasing down here on the bottom. It's in perfect condition, and I just said, oh my god. Like, I have to get this. I have to get this before somebody else does, because Inkheart in hardcover to match Ink World and Ink Death makes me so happy. Alright, we're just gonna start going into there is no rhyme or reason to these books, so I'm just gonna show them to you. The first one is one that I special ordered to the Barnes & Noble that I work at, and that is the Complete Alcatraz by Brandon Sanderson. We all know who Brandon Sanderson is by now because A, he's an amazing writer, and B, he's sort of like taken over booktube with all the people who read fantasy. Makes me very excited. This is a bind-up of his middle grade Alcatraz series, where the young boy named Alcatraz lives in like a world where it is taken over by evil librarians, and I started reading this book and I just started cracking up. It's so funny and clever and not necessarily what I expected out of Brandon Sanderson, probably because I'm so used to his fantasy. While there are fantasy elements, there's something about the character voice that is like spot on. Next, I have Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I already did a massive full review on this book, which I will link down below, and it's amazing. Also, Brownie Points, the audiobook is amazing if you haven't listened to it. Next, I have The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss, the first two books in his King Killer Chronicles series. These are also books for which I was sort of listening to them while I was reading them, and I'd been meaning to pick up The Name of the Wind for a very long time, and I don't know why I kept putting it off. Shame on me, because these books were amazing, amazing fantasy. Just, why did I wait so long on these? Why? Also, kick-ass female characters in here, and so many of them. I'm just saying. Next, I get to prove my embarrassment in that I placed an order to the book depository and I bought the special edition of Fangirl and the paperback of Fangirl. I have 3 copies of Fangirl. I own these and a first edition US hardback. I have a problem. Also in that book depository order, I picked up Gates of Thread and Stone by Lori M. Lee. This is the first book in a series, and it was really good. I didn't really know what to anticipate out of it. I'd seen some people haul it, and it looked really interesting, so I picked it up, and yeah, it was good. I read it in like kind of 1.5 sittings. And the last book I picked up in my book depository haul was Howls Moving Castle by Diane Wynne Jones. I had read this book a long time ago. I didn't remember it, and I happened to rewatch the movie that Hayao Miyazaki did at Studio Ghibli, and I just sort of had this need to go and read the book. So I got it, and I got this really beautiful edition with the typography. And for those of you who don't know, there are actually 2 sequels to Howl's Moving Castle, and they have these editions with the typography and such, just different colors, I think, and I'm really tempted to get them. I might wait till Christmas, but I'm really tempted to get them. Next, I have a book that I won in a giveaway, and I'd sort of forgotten I won it, so when it showed up on my doorstep while I was away visiting my alma mater, I sort of came back to it, was surprised, and that is The Spirit Glass Charade by Colleen Gleason. This is the second book in the Stoker and Holmes series. I had actually previously won a paperback copy of the first book, The Clockwork Scarab, so it was actually kind of cool to get the Spirit Glass Charade and be able to read the second book. I did Goodreads reviews for these, so I'll link my Goodreads down below just in case you're interested in some of my thoughts. They are completely spoiler-free, so no worries in being spoiled for anything. Okay, all the rest of the books that I'm going to show you are ones that I bought myself at Barnes & Noble and within the past like week or so they're all pretty recent. Some of them I've read, some of them I haven't, so I guess we'll just start with the ones I got today. I picked up Horns by Joe Hill. I was waiting because I did kind of want the movie cover. I know that's like booktube sin to get the movie cover, but it's a really good cover. It's well designed, and I kind of like it better than the vague like pitchfork cover. I picked this up because the movie is coming out on Halloween, and I think I've convinced my brother to come and see it with me. I really want to see it. I've been following this movie for a while, so I will be reading this before I go see the movie. I also have Afterworlds by Scott Westerfeld, his most recent release. It is a very big, very heavy book. It literally just almost tipped over on me. It is 600 pages. I literally finished this maybe an hour or 2 ago. Guys, it's awesome. It's everything it lived up to be, and I just fell in love with these characters. I had tried reading his Ugly series before, couldn't quite get into it. I'm really glad I gave Scott Westerfeld and his writing another chance, because the writing in Afterworlds was beautiful, and he just knows how to write great characters. Today I also picked up Winter Spell by Claire Legrand. This is apparently a spinning on the classic tale of the Nutcracker, which has a very soft, warm, fuzzy, special place in my heart. I've danced in the Nutcracker, I've seen it before, and every Christmas I make a point of watching the classic American Ballet Theater version that stars and I believe was choreographed by Mikhail Baryshnikov, which, if you haven't seen this version, you really should check it out. It's the first version of the Nutcracker I recall seeing. It leaves me in tears every time I watch it, because I'm a massive softie and it's a little bittersweet. But this is apparently a play on the Nutcracker. It did just come out today, September 30th, and so I'm really excited to read this, though I probably will not read it until sometime closer to December, when I'm going to be having this and basically the whole score to the Nutcracker playing in the background, because, I mean, that just seems necessary. Next I have Jacobi by William Ritter. I did a quick review of this. This is a book which was pitched by the publisher as Doctor Who meets Sherlock, and it did not disappoint on that front, in that it was witty and fun, great characters, and the character of Jacobi is wonderful. I highly recommend this book if you're in for kind of quick, fun, paranormal mystery kind of read, with a character who literally is like if David Tennant's Doctor plus Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock and Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes had a personality hybrid baby, you get Jacobi. So I mean, do you need any more reason to read this? Okay, legit no laughing. I saw this on a shelving cart at work and immediately knew I had to have it. It is the manga classics edition of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Yeah, you did not hear me wrong. I bought a manga of Pride and Prejudice. In general, the art is actually really pretty nice, and the adaptation is extremely faithful and fairly well done. It was just sort of fun. I picked it up, and I can just kind of put it on my shelf with my various other Austen things, and it looks kind of silly, but it's one of those things where I could show to people and be like, It's cute. You know you think it's cute. If you're into manga and you're into classics, there are a couple other books coming out in this line. I believe I saw Les Miserables in there. So, I mean, maybe they'll do some more Jane Austen. That'd be kind of cool. Like, if Persuasion came out, I would totally get it. Next, I got The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. I got it in paperback because I got The Raven Boys in paperback. I had already read this. In fact, I've actually also read an arc of Blue Lily Lily Blue. Thank you, Scholastic and NetGalley. But I really want the physical copies and I'm collecting them in paperback, so I picked this up when it came out. And the last paperback I have to show you is The Screaming Staircase by Jonathan Stroud. This is the first book in his new middle grade series, Lockwood and Company. Jonathan Stroud, of course, wrote the Bartimaeus series, which is one of my favorite series. I have a lot of very fond memories of it. And so when I had heard he was coming out with a new series, I was super excited. The second book, The Whispering Skull, just came out. I haven't read it yet. I gotta wait. And the last 3 books. Why did I just hold up 6 fingers? The last 3 books, I promise the last ones, are all by the same author. They are all by William Joyce. If you don't know William Joyce, I love his Guardians of Childhood series. And Santa Calls is still one of my favorite books ever from childhood. I need to get a new copy because ours is so wrecked. First is The Fantastic Flying Books of Morris Lesmore. This is the very story that inspired the animated short film that William Joyce did, and it won the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. It's a really beautiful story about a guy who loves books and has his own like story that he writes and tells, and it's just wonderful. It has all the great art of William Joyce. And so the other 2 of his that I have is The Sandman and The Man in the Moon. Both of these are part of the Guardians of Childhood series. Yes, they are chapter books, but he also did picture books. Obviously, these are not only illustrated, but in full color, which I noted in the Guardians of Childhood series. The pictures were some of the best parts. So to have William Joyce's art in like full color, which is something he totally excels at, is really awesome. And these books are just beautiful. They're almost steampunky in a way, which is definitely a look that William Joyce has. So yes, that is it for my September book haul. With a lot of books. On the plus side, literally almost every book I hold, I've already read. That's a really, really good sign because it means I'm not just collecting things that sit on my TBR. I make a point of only getting books that I'm going to read or things that I've read already in some of the cases. But that is it from me, you guys. The next video you will see will be my September wrap up. And let's just preface by saying I read a lot of books. But that's it for me tonight, you guys. So until next time, cheers.